Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are located. My name is Randy Jocelyn, and thank you for joining our Gateway Ticketing webinar, Learning from Other Industries. It looks like we have some more folks that keep coming in, so it's awesome that you're joining us today. We're going to kick things off. I'm sharing my screen, and hopefully you should see everything on your screen. If this is your first webinar, please sign up at our newsletter, gatewayticketing.com/community. We've got this cool white paper, and we'll be sending you all these links later, so there's no need to get a screenshot or anything on that. You are an integral part of all of our webinars, and today, I would say that's hugely more important. We have some great panelists joining us today that are real innovators and engineers and technology experts, people that have been advising all different types of industries moving through this COVID pandemic, and before just helping them better understand and reach their higher potential. These gentlemen are here to answer questions, and we want you to ask away. So this is my invitation for all of you to use our Q&A panel. You can see here there's a Q&A on your WebEx events, and just go ahead and click in there. Any question that you want. We could talk about restaurants, airlines, ferry services, transportation, attractions, theater, sports events. Any questions that you might have are definitely going to be welcomed. Machine learning, AI, data analytics. I really want you to know that there's a wide spectrum of conversation that these gentlemen will be able to share their knowledge with all of us. So please use the Q&A. My friend Bill D'Angelo will do his best to answer some of those questions along the way as well. And then we'll surface your questions to our panelists. All right. This webinar is 60 minutes in length. It's a community discussion of best practices. Like we mentioned, there's Q&A here. And these are open to the public. So it's not a private event. This is a public event. So if there are any members of the press here, please just introduce yourselves in the chat window. So we can see you and make sure that we have all that information. Am I not sharing my screen? I'm sorry, guys. I am sharing it, right? Is everybody seeing it? Good. Let's try that again.
There's the agenda. We see it.
There we go. My partner Matthew Hohenstein usually shares the screen for me, and I just made a little mistake there. Apologize. I was getting a bunch of alerts. So that is the view I want you guys to be seeing. There's your Q&A panel right over there. And you'll be able to click on any of those, ask questions away. This is our agenda. If you're a member of the press, let us know. Now, our webinar Wednesdays are this bi-weekly gathering where we talk about all things attractions with these industry experts. So really, we've been talking about best practices and innovation and the future ahead. This session here is a multi-part series. You can see learning from other industries. We do have a very special webinar next Wednesday. It's our special edition in honor of International Women's Day. Do not miss that session. We have fantastic leaders in the attraction industry joining us. It's called Celebrate, Elevate, Cultivate, Empower Talented Women in Our Organization. So please do sign up for that. Followed by the pot of gold at the end of this journey. There's really been some positivity out of where we're at now. And this is a session where we're going to highlight some of the ahas and great learnings from this pandemic as we've kind of gone through one whole year of dealing with this in the United States. And then the following webinar to close out March, the future of the membership pass programs. I read an amazing article just a couple days ago. Disney's CEO was talking about the membership program and what those changes are going to be and what is the impact going to be as they reimagine what a membership program might look like for Disneyland pass holders. So we're going to be talking about that Wednesday, March 31st. Like I mentioned, International Women's Day, please make sure to sign up and don't miss that session. My really good friend, Matthew Hohenstein, is going to try to join us. He might not make it today, but he's my co-host. He's usually here. If he drops in, we will make sure to say hello to him. I'm Randy Jocelyn, Wildlife and Conservation Principal here at Gateway Ticketing. I'm joined today by our other moderator, Greg Banneker. Greg is our Senior Manager of Marketing here at Gateway Ticketing, and he's going to be joining us. Now, we have two outstanding panelists. I mentioned them to you a little bit. Al Callier, he's the Head of Business Development at JIFFY.ai. And prior to this, Al served as Vice President for Strategic Innovation and Emerging Technology at NBC Universal Parks and Resorts. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's a venture capitalist. He's got great ideas. I guarantee you, you will walk away learning a ton of new ideas and thoughts, and he's fantastic.
Thank you, Randy.
We're gonna just, Al, thank you for being here, and we're gonna get out of your way as soon as possible because you and our other panelists, Ala here, Ala Battikhi is a principal consultant at North Highland, and Ala also just a wealth of knowledge. He's got a master's degree in industrial engineering and an engineering management degree. And really North Highland's a consultancy that works with helping people transform their organization and key industries of transportation and theme parks, financial service. Both Ala and Al are heavyweights working with attractions in other ancillary industries. So they're the most fitting gentlemen to join us today as we have these conversations. So Ala and Al, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
You guys are looking great there. Helping us behind the scenes, we have our friend Bill D'Angelo. Any questions that you might have, go ahead and hit him up in the chat. Al will do his best. Bill will do his best answering any questions that you might have. And any tech issues, he can help you out. So Greg, I'm going to pass it off to you to kick us off and kind of give us an industry update. It's always something we like to do, kind of talk about where we are in the industry. So why don't you tell us what you've been uncovering?
Yeah, so as we all know, we are still in the pandemic. There has been a certain level of vaccination going on in the United States and worldwide. There are parks and attractions that have been open throughout or are planning reopenings, but I've been struck just really this past week with the optimistic nature of the news that's been coming out from the attraction space. So if you follow the news or any of the industry newsletters that come from media outlets, it's all about reopening. So I'm not going to go through every single headline you see here, and this was just some of the headlines, but places are setting reopening dates and or reopening as we speak. It seems to be around March 12th to May 15th. That's when places are planning reopenings. And obviously, I think that's largely because of, seasonal demands. So we're getting into spring break, then we'll be getting into the warmer months. But the optimism of attractions saying we're setting a line in the sand for when we will be reopening, whether that's at limited capacity or not, to me is very encouraging. We all know 2021, again, is not going to be a standard year, but it's going to be a better year than last year. So I just wanted to highlight that. And kind of hand in hand with that, Randy, if you can go to the next one, is hiring. Okay, so we've done a little talking about hiring in past webinars, but a lot of the news really hit this week as well. So you can see some of the four big headlines from larger parks here, but attractions are hiring. That's good news for anyone on the webinar right now and anyone in our industry for obvious reasons. I think most of these are probably frontline staff or seasonal staff, but amongst these numbers, there's absolutely back of office roles that are opening and being hired for that were potentially let go, during the heart of the pandemic. So it's good news for everyone here. The other thing it shows is just the optimism of these attractions. So they're planning on reopening and they are planning on staffing up to make sure that they can hit service certain capacity numbers. Hiring 6,500 staff, if you're just going to remain at 25%, it probably is not likely. So they're planning on growing that capacity percentage and making sure they have a year that's different from last year. IAPA, I don't have this here, but IAPA just released an employment report that I thought was pretty interesting. The report was just for the theme park and arcade space, but I do think a lot of the principles probably apply across all our attractions. We're down 162,000 jobs versus this time last year. And that's even with, as we know, many places reopened in June, July, August of last year and stayed open. So they had to bring some staff back, but like we all know, they didn't bring all their staff back. So we're still 162,000 jobs down versus last year. So that's the sort of influx of people coming back into the industry that we could expect over the next year and 2 years. And that's a lot of people. So one thing to think about, which we're not going to talk about today, but one thing to think about is what are you doing bringing 6,500 people, back to your attraction, or for much smaller attractions, what are you doing bringing an outsized number of employees back to your attraction? It's probably not a problem you had to deal with since you opened, or I don't know, since the last recession, but just something to think about. Some attractions are turning towards workforce management software just to help out with that.
Yeah, actually, we talked about that a little bit, and I found that impact report. So I think this is what we'll do. Everybody is I'll put this link in here, and it's really some great information about some of the wage impacts and some of the labor impact, and there is a tremendous effort to realign labor, and we've talked about that quite a bit in our previous sessions. When people are bringing back hiring, having employees that can really move from area to area is something that's much more appealing. We are seeing, I think it was Atlantis, when Atlantis reopened their water park in China. One of the things that we had seen was that they were actually rotating the park. They were not opening every slide all at once. They were rotating staff, they were rotating and cleaning. And I think some attractions are still doing this. We've definitely seen this out of the restaurant space as well. Restaurants that are moving in segments and putting all the diners in this area, preparing this area, moving the new diners into this area, cleaning that area. And that's a confidence issue, right? Like, I want to go to a restaurant where I feel safe. And I would say that these attractions are going to do the same thing. So we'll go ahead and put that link into the chat, and I will do that right now, so everybody can have that. So go ahead, Bill, you can pass that one along. So great information. I also was super excited to hear not just about hiring, but build. So this is an article that broke today, and Comcast Universal CEO Brian Roberts, we all know about Epic Universe. We know that this was the fourth park in Orlando for Universal. There was a lot of excitement and energy about this product. And it wasn't much more than a year ago that things were starting to get underway. And then, of course, COVID occurred and really everything slowed down here on this project. But just today, in a Morgan Stanley phone call, CEO Brian Roberts had stated that construction was going to resume. And both Al and Ala, you are, I believe, in the Orlando area. I'm sure you're seeing this all over your papers as well. And that's pretty exciting news, right? I mean, gentlemen, like you guys have had close ties to Universal. And when you see something like this, what does that mean for not just the theme park industry, but for Orlando itself? I was wondering if maybe we don't just pause for a moment and get your thoughts on this.
Well, I'll kick us off, Randy, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's great to join the panel with you and Bill and Ala today. So thank you. And yes, the news feeds this morning lit up with the announcements from Mr. Roberts around Epic Universe. And I boil everything down to two words: optimism and increasing confidence. I think as many know, the stock market and other types of measures like that lead the Main Street side of the world, right? So as we look at the news that comes out today, and we think about consumer confidence 2, 3, 4 quarters out to the back half of this year, that story is getting increasingly more positive. And news like the news that has come out today and recently just builds on that. And it's a very welcome sign. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand. People have been sequestered in many cases for well over a year now. We've been practicing social distancing, which is a little bit of a contradiction in terms because there's absolutely nothing social about distancing from each other. Human beings need that to be happy and to have fun and feel like you're leading a fulfilling life. So I think we're going to see a good bounce back. You know, I've been in the business since the early 2000s, and we saw it after 9/11. It took about 24 to 36 months. We saw it after the Great Recession. Again, 24 to 36 months to fully recover. This one is going to probably feel a little bit faster, right? We're working through a health-based crisis now, but travel, tourism, parks, entertainment, it tends to come back very strong because it serves a very core human need. And I think the same will be the case this time, and we're already seeing early signs of that. So it's very encouraging.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No, I was going to introduce you to Ala and say, yeah, Ala, I jump right in. I wanted your perspective as well.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you for having us and having me on this panel. I certainly agree. There's a lot of optimism. As you know, Florida as a whole is considered as the 17th largest economy in the world. So having continuous growth, I know we range between 65 to 75 million tourists a year. So we definitely rely heavily on that, and seeing the growth that our theme park clients are embarking on and building immersive experiences like Epic will be extremely encouraging. And what's excellent is seeing the work that Al has done and what other theme parks have been doing, even before COVID, is extremely encouraging from a digital experience transformation perspective. It's as if you guys knew something that was going to happen, that needed to build a smart ticketing experience, contactless queuing, cashless payments, reliance more on the mobile app. So there's a lot of great things that have been paving the way to make us strong and ready to get to it. And I agree with Al. A lot of studies are showing that this is not that we're in a marathon, not in a race, and it's going to take perhaps till 2023 till we see what we would really want to see in the industry as well as in tourism as a whole.
Well said.
I agree. I mean, I'm so pumped up about this conversation because I have so many things I could jump to. And certainly, I love the perspective that both of you have on the future state. And you're right, Ala. It is like Al and the team and all the teams at Universal were looking into the future of what does this next experience look like? How do we more intimately know our customers so we could create a better experience for them? And one of the positive, I would say, byproducts of the COVID pandemic for all industries has been that level of personalization. I was on a call just a few minutes ago with restaurant CIOs, and they were talking about the challenges of operating a restaurant during this time period where you don't have that opportunity to meet with your customers face to face. They're not sitting down and eating with you anymore or currently. And as such, in order to survive, they realize they really need to have more of like a ghost kitchen. They need to have delivery service. They need to get their brand in front of the customers, but doing that requires more information of your customers, and they just weren't ready and equipped technologically to deal with all of that data. So they looked to people like Uber and DoorDash and these other systems. And unfortunately, one of the negative byproducts is all that personalization is out there. It's in cyberspace, but it's not coming back to that restaurant. It's in this other layer of service providers. So I want to ask with all this automation techniques and in these ancillary industries like restaurants and theme parks, what is your advice if you're running an attraction? What of these techniques should I be researching in now? What should I be implementing now? And I'll probably start with you, Al. what should I be doing if I'm an attraction and I don't know how to proceed with this technology? What would you recommend?
Well, that's a great question, Randy. And what I would share with the group today is the idea that automation is a hot topic. Okay, if you're doing research and you're on search engines, you're going to see a lot in the news. It's one of the main new thrusts within enterprise software. Okay, and when you think about automation, there is sort of a traditional frame of mind, and there is a new school of thought for automation. So traditionally, you're going to see words like RPA and acronyms like that. RPA stands for robotic process automation. And this is traditionally how automation is sort of viewed, where you're dealing with repetitive human processes that are fairly rote and easy to replicate by some form of machine intelligence. Let's call that the old school way to think about automation. What you would want to be researching now are things like intelligent automation or cognitive automation or platform-based automation. And what that means is, in a nutshell, convergence. When you have the convergence of technologies like RPA, right, the basic ability to emulate a human doing simple tasks, and you combine that with machine learning, AI, cloud-based computing, low-code and no-code software development, as well as a number of other new forms of technology, when these come together, you end up with a much more powerful tool and a powerful method to automate not just the simple tasks, but you can approach automation for more complex tasks, tasks that require real inference, where your system can understand the intention of what you're trying to accomplish with the business process and actually automate much more complex back-end business processes much more than ever before. And this is a big deal because in many cases, businesses think about this in terms of reducing staff and in the folklore, when you listen to Elon Musk and others, we talk about the machines replace people. Actually, we don't believe that. We think the teamwork between the machine intelligence and the human intelligence is really where the ROI is when you look at the next decade. So the platforms that are building great tools to automate and maximize the capability of not just the automation side, but the effectiveness of the human side of the equation as well, that's where we think the win is. And we like to think of it through the lens of growing better, right? Growing more efficiently, being able to bring those folks back to work within the industry, but maybe being able to do things better and getting more productivity out of the team members engaged in the business now and elevating that skill set, right? So you're not just doing all the rote tasks, but you're actually learning how to use the digital tools of automation to make the business stronger. And that's why we're seeing automation quickly become a core aspect of digital transformation programs. Most digital transformation started with mobile applications and chatbots and things that were generally more consumer or guest facing. And now we're seeing automation more core and important to the strength, resiliency, and the ability of the business to grow in a better way. And we're seeing this across the board. Airlines, hotels, large businesses. It is certainly relevant to the theme park business, the resorts business, the attraction business. There are lots of opportunities to bring automation technology into your workflows in a productive way that adds sustainable value to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I want to jump to you, kind of building on what Al was just saying, and we're gonna put on our industrial engineering and experience hat for a moment, because we had a great question come in about virtual queuing, which the old school way of doing it, Al, and the question was specifically about Volcano Bay at Universal. And
okay.
The old school way of doing virtual queuing was like, oh, hey, I'm going to sell you this lanyard, and the lanyard means you get to go to the front of the line. But Al, let's talk about data points about this convergence that or Ala, I'll mess it up a little bit, but I want Ala from an industrial engineering and experience point of view. Let's talk about that convergence. How is virtual queuing and the data around it? Is that an example of something that an attraction is going to continually? You'll see more attractions continually adopt. What's your take on that?
The short answer is yes, I think so, Randy. The way I would look at it, I think it's a great time that we all live in if we are fans of data and analytics and making evidence-based decision making. What Universal and Disney and other theme parks are doing greatly is they're looking at how do we present the right product to the right customer at the right time to optimize their full experience, whether it's before they arrive, whether in the park, which what you're mentioning, the virtual line comes in, or after they leave and we start doing that. So the theme parks are collecting a wealth of information. They're collecting behavioral information. They're collecting demographic information. Of course, they're making sure they're being sensitive to any privacy, and they're encrypting any data. So they're tracking it based on a guest ID rather than Randy Jocelyn, if you know what I mean. And they're basically saying, okay, let me see how this particular customer interacted with us in the past times. What do they like to go on? What should we recommend while they're in the park? Let's send them notification. Let's let them know that your most favorite ride is now available, and it only has a 10-minute wait. So by the time you walk there, so things that we used to imagine that were out of this world are actually a reality right now. And if you think of technologies that are out there, whether it's technologies like IoT technologies that are tracking that have sensor that enable movement, that enable noise, that enable density, video monitoring, and you're pulling all that data and you're putting it in the cloud, and you're attaching to it a data analytics layer that's allowing you to not only look at descriptive analytics, telling you what happened, but it's actually diagnosing it and telling you why is it happening. And then you're going to where Al is taking us. You're starting to predict what can happen, and then you're prescribing what should you do as a result of it. So the technology is out there, the logic is out there, and as Al said, it's the combination between human and machine that's going to allow for that type of learning. And then people are designing the theme parks, they're designing the airports in a way that they're making people's movements more seamless. And it's just a great thing to do. Now, I do want to point out that there's a lot of excitement around data science and machine learning and AI, which is key. And then there's a piece that I'm sure Al would agree with me that needs to happen, which is let's organize your information. Let's clean up your data. Let's manage your data in ways that allows. And that's where things which we don't talk about in parties, like data governance and that kind of stuff and process. Yes. But these are necessary stuff. These are necessary stuff that every organization needs to do with. And the theme parks are doing a great job in leveraging that data. There are teams of industrial engineers that's what they do for a living, and they do a fantastic job leveraging what's available out there. I don't know, Al, if you agree with me.
Yeah, to add to that, and I can see the logic for why you put us both on the panel, and our both first names are sort of Al, right? Because we're thinking very much alike. When you talk about the concept of sensor fusion, right? That's another concept similar to the convergence of technologies we're seeing on the automation side, where multiple aspects of technology are being pulled together to work in sync. And when you talk about being able to be what we call friendly, right? Big data friendly or data science friendly. If you're researching, what kind of an IoT or smart sensor system I want to put into improving a guest experience, or what kind of an automation solution, you want to ask that question. What platforms are friendly to big data, friendly to data science? Are there tools integrated in those platforms that would make it easy for a data scientist on your team to actually work in those platforms. That is not always true for all solution providers out there. So these are the kind of things, when you ask the question, Randy, what do you want to research? You know, when we say intelligent automation or cognitive automation, you really want to say, well, you know, we may start in a focused way, right? You may start with a point solution, but is that based on a platform model where you can grow and learn as that skill set improves and you get data scientists and folks that can do the data management tasks that Ala described? Can your solutions accommodate that and scale with you as you mature into greater and greater digital capabilities? These are the kind of things you want to research, and it's true with IoT as it is for automation. So it's a great topic.
I want to follow up with something that you both touched on, and it's pertains to the question that was asked. So we know that at Volcano Bay with virtual queuing, I believe you can scan your wristband and enter the virtual queue. One thing that I think most of us think about when we think automation is automation is an excellent step in the right direction. It's advancement. It's a positive thing. And what we don't always think about is what are the downstream impacts of automation. So for example, with the virtual queuing at anyone's water park, if you were to implement that, now you don't have people waiting in line, but you do have people waiting somewhere or doing things somewhere. So do you actually have the space in your park to manage that many more people when they aren't in line? And it's a consequence that you might not think about and could even be a negative consequence. So kind of an open-ended question here, but as we think about advancing in this direction, what are some of the downstream impacts or even negative consequences we need to either just consider and be prepared for, or, you know, find solutions for? Either one, go for it.
Ala, would you like to start?
Go ahead, Al.
Okay, I'll volunteer. I would say that when you cite Volcano Bay as an example, it's a great example because we had the luxury and the opportunity to be very intentional upfront to design in the activities and the geography and on the park footprint that would accommodate guests not standing in a queue. That is not always true, especially when you're retrofitting an existing venue. But that said, there are creative ways to manage this. And you typically have to go in some sort of a stepwise fashion, right? If you try to go completely all virtual overnight, like 100% like a light switch, that is when a lot of the unintended consequences you cite can sort of emerge quickly and become untenable. But if you think about implementing in phases, progressively, thinking through the attractions that have the highest amount of attendance and the heaviest queues, and you allow yourself to learn in reasonable steps, almost applying like the lean startup mentality to how you approach implementing. You know, you start out lean, go step by step. So when these unintended consequences emerge, they are manageable. You can pivot, you can adjust, and you'll find your way to scale. And, you know, without, you know, revealing too many old secrets, all I can tell you is that, Greg, there's a way to do it. There's a way to get there progressively. And that's the key word, as opposed to all at once overnight, because that can be overwhelming. And, you know, you can get some pretty serious unintended consequences at times.
I agree with you, Al. And to add up to that, like Greg, you would look at things. So if we want to look at data, we would look at things like, okay, I'm trying this particular solution, technology solution. I'm in a theme park. I'm going to ask myself questions like, okay, how many rides did people get on? How long did they wait? How many hours did they spend in the park? What else did they do while they were waiting? And then I put a layer of what was the customer satisfaction rating for that day, for that experience? And you do your tweaking like Al is saying. you basically realize that perhaps I don't need to go virtual on every particular ride. Or perhaps you want to train your team members to direct your folks, either go left or go right based on the need and based on the capacities that are out there. And then you study your existing non-ride attractions and you ask yourself, which ones did not perform according to what we wanted to perform? What should we do differently? And it's exactly what Al was saying. It's a learning experience. And I'm sure in any theme park, in any zoo, in any airport, they open, things don't happen exactly as planned, and then they start calibrating and they start respond. Right. Yeah. So that would be my response.
That is exactly right. I think we've all experienced that numerous times in our various roles within the industry, and it's highly likely to continue to be true when you think about all the new development, Epic Universe, opening up, new parks, new geographies around the world. As those venues open, they will still be in a period of rapid reality and adjustment to optimize. There really is no finish line for that. And as long as you approach that strategically and knowingly, right, and not sort of pretend, okay, we're open and we're done, you'll be okay, right? Because you'll plan for it. You'll get, your great people focused on it. And, these are what we call fun challenges, right? Now we're talking about the high quality problems, which is dealing with growth, dealing with change, leveraging technology, new ways of working together. And it's all very exciting. And it's great to see the conversation on this call begin to, go back to the positive as opposed to just talking about the trials over the past year or so. This is great.
Yeah, and I'm so pumped up to hear you guys talk about some of the discussions about layering this implementation in. And it's important to sometimes back up and see how long that journey sometimes takes, but know that with new technologies, getting there today is much faster. And I want to talk about, we're not going to go into a deep dive, but I'm going to use this story. Disneyland's Fast Pass has been around for, 20 years, maybe almost 15 years at least. And the Fast Pass system was designed to solve a problem. And the problem was that guest satisfaction kind of bounced around at Disneyland based on how many e-ticket rides and experiences you could get. Like, I felt that I had to go on 6 rides or 7 rides, and they analyze that, and industrial engineers get together and they all figure out, can a person experience all these rides in a day? And if they hit that number, they feel happy. And it's almost exactly what you guys said. They hit that number, they feel happy, they feel it was a successful day. So then you go, how can we get people to experience more? And the Fast Pass is a precursor to my Magic Plus, right? Like it's how do we infuse technology to make this even better? Now, a lot of people on our call here are probably freaked out to say, how do I even start? And really, I want to throw out some suggestions. You're probably collecting the data. You probably already have a lot of the data. You just might not have a CRM for a repository. You might have so much data in that CRM that you don't even know where to start. And it's okay to start with baby steps. If you know that this pass holder typically stays at the park, that data is probably in your system. If you know that this pass holder likes Dippin' Dots, then encourage them to buy more Dippin' Dots. You probably know that data because that pass holder, you scanned their pass probably, and you sold them Dippin' Dots. You might even know that they love banana split Dippin' Dots, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan because when I worked at the water park, that's what I always would go to. That's my go-to. So the baby steps might be just solve one problem. How do I encourage these people to spend more money or have dinner with us if I'm a water park, or go to this area of the zoo? So we can bring them there slowly, but it doesn't have to be everything. So what is your advice on, like, is there a couple things that, if you're a smaller attraction, what could you focus on today to maybe just clean up your CRM data or get a CRM system? What and I think it's really important something you said, Al. I don't want to brush over it. You said low code and no code.
Yeah, let's emphasize the no code part because that's where the value really is. Increasingly, it's becoming no code, but go on.
No, yeah. So what would you, if you're not Disney or Universal, if you're the Ronald Reagan Library who joins us sometimes, I don't know if they're on here today, but if you're a smaller botanical garden or a zoo, what could be a good starting point? I mean, they probably have to meet and get help because they might not have ever got together to discuss this.
Let me try to articulate this. I'm going to use the word algorithm, right? Which is just a series of steps to get to an outcome. Okay. And I just thought of this. This is not like, prepared just for this call, but just to help communicate the concept. Randy, what you just did is you started with a consumer problem and you defined it very tightly. You didn't try to boil the ocean. You had a very well-defined consumer problem. So that's the first component in the algorithm. The next thing is, okay, let's find a technology solution. Now, typically, you're small, you're conservative. You may not feel like you're particularly, advanced from a tech or back-end perspective. That's okay. Start where you are. You don't have to have any negative feelings about that. Believe me, in the landscape of business, you are not alone if you have that feeling. So you start with a high quality problem, well defined. On the solution side, it's okay to start in the concept of a point solution. Sometimes point solutions get a bad rap because they sound very limited, but what you can do is start from the concept of what will solve this problem, but now leverage the benefit of modern technology, which is point solutions now exist within platforms. So if you buy into a point solution where you can buy it at an economical price for a specific solution, and you can go at your own pace and not feel like the tech is getting too far ahead of the team, do that, but do your homework. At least buy into a platform. Because the platform is what enables you to tap into this convergence we've been talking about. Cloud, services, APIs, microservices architecture, all of these things play into, making things easier. But if you don't buy into a platform, then each time you have to solve a problem, you're kind of, starting over again, right? So you've got well-defined problem, starting from a very tight, how do we solve this? What's the best tech? Put that in the context of platform-based solutions and leverage SaaS. That's the last part of this, software as a service. This is everything from cloud. I remember when, back in the day, I probably created the first instance of an AWS use case at Universal. It was for a ride wait time use case for Halloween Horror Nights. I set it up with my corporate credit card, got legal, a contractor to be the account manager, but people were afraid of the cloud then. When you talk about data, you tend to, you can get real sort of protected and concerned about, who has access to it and what can happen. And if you don't allow that data to be exposed to things like cloud and a lot of these new database structures and tools, you can't get the benefit, right? So you don't have to try to do everything yourself. There are tools and services and platforms that can come into your business, API into your data, your disparate legacy systems, or build services and aggregate that data, put it in an economically data lake as a service. I'll say it that way. You'd be surprised at what you can do if you don't try to do it all yourself and you find a way to trust the best technology, which is getting more and more affordable, more and more productized. So as you kind of move through that process of problem, solution, platform, and SaaS, that's your algorithm. Like if you don't have SaaS at the end of it, you're trying to do too much yourself, right? If you can abstract away that complexity, you can tackle almost any problem in an efficient way that's affordable, right? And that can scale with you And as you grow, your solution can grow with you, and you won't feel like you're getting too far ahead of the team. Now, I know Ala knows a lot about this because I remember the days of working with him and his team at North Highland. So Ala, please share your wisdom as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Al. I agree with your algorithm and the thought process. To build on that, so if we're a smaller organization, we're not as big as the theme parks, and we're just getting maybe a few million customers a year. We start with the business strategy. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to improve conversion rates and get more people to your website? Are you trying to improve your operations in the park or in the zoo? Are you trying to maximize the revenue you're getting from a customer while they are inside? So what is that one use case or two or three use cases that you're trying to accomplish? And then based on that, we need to justify to leadership, what is the ROI? Like, how much do you need to invest in order to actually achieve this benefit? And in many cases, as I would know, it is mostly almost always justified. That you're gonna have some upfront investment, but with the gains that you can get, whether it's an operational efficiencies or revenue growth or customer satisfaction. And then if the answer is you're trying to improve operations in the park, maybe you start tagging information that's key to what you're trying to improve in the park. You invest it, whether it's sensors or video surveillances or even bean counters. It can start as simple as that. And then you track that information. And as Al said, cloud is your friend. Cloud is not made for only multi-billion-dollar corporations. Because of the subscription-based model and because of the usage-based model, the cost of investing in a cloud solution is actually a feasible one. So you would start with there. Maybe you may need to hire some fresh graduates or someone who has done it somewhere else, someone who has done it either in a similar industry or in another industry that has a lot of characteristics. I was talking earlier with Al and Randy and Greg and Bill and Matt prior to this about other industries like the transportation industry. So you don't have to learn only from the zoo industry or the theme park industry. Collect all of that, start with basic computing, and you will get there. But definitely taking a vertical slice of your customer journey, if you map out your customer journey and you take a vertical slice of it and you work in an agile way and you see benefits, you'll get a lot of buy-in and momentum moving forward. I hope some of this makes sense.
That's great. That's fantastic. May I make one more comment?
Please.
What I would say to that, because this is a great thread here, Ala, is the idea of right sizing. I sense in your question, Randy, the natural concern of, I don't want to, take on too much risk or spend too much. And I'm just, I've got this department. I know the part of the customer, the guest journey I'm trying to impact. I know my problem well, but I don't want to get in over my head. I want to right size this. And that right sizing of, solving today's problem, but giving you some runway for the next problem and the problem after that, that's what you get when you think of this through the lens of solutions to platforms to SaaS. The consumption-based, subscription-based models that Ala talked about, they give you the ability to right size and not feel like you're getting too far ahead of where your skill set is. But when you're ready, you've got the runway and you can scale it in a user-friendly way for your business. And if you're thoughtful, all this wonderful convergence we've been talking about, big data, analytics, data science, sensor fusion, you will have the underlying services and platforms that can handle that convergence, right? So when you're buying a point solution, you got to think, okay, how extensible is this? And if I get a ROI, can I hang on to it? At our company, we have the concept of sustainable ROI. Getting it is one thing, sustaining ROI is a different animal. So has your solution provider even thought about the concept of, we'll get you an ROI and we'll make it sustainable? If they don't have a good answer for that, I would say move on, because what we see over and over again is you get a win and it can dissipate because the basis, isn't sound.
I agree, Alan. If I may add, in addition to kind of like how Al and I are talking about the architect role, like you're architecting a solution, you need the translator role as well. And I know some of the questions we're asking about business analysts, and I know, Al, you were talking about this actually before we got on this call, which is we need to be able to have a person or an entity that's translating between business and technology. We need to be able to have those business analysts who are uber researchers, and at the same time, they can speak both languages. They understand what the business model runs on, how the business model runs, and they understand the underlying technology to make it happen. So definitely having that role is a key role.
So we're kind of bumping up against it, but I'm just going to ask at least one more question. We had a question about parking, which I'm finding kind of interesting, because parking sort of spans the gamut across transportation, hotels, attractions, events, sporting events, live music. Have you seen any, this is kind of off script, but have you seen any sort of automation or best practices from other industries in terms of parking that we might be able to give here? Also with the lens that parking is a great revenue driver right now for attractions, because you own the parking lot usually and you can just charge for it.
So if I can, I'll take a stab at that. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
I guess to step back and notice that there's a movement away from the internal combustion engine to the electric vehicle and the autonomous vehicle. We practically have computers driving in our roads, and this is enabling vehicle to asset communication. So as a result of that, there's a lot of intelligence around basically connecting the supply-demand, location-based, and historical information around that parking facility and optimizing the parking experience. Of course, there are things like demand-based pricing, so you could see parking prices going up and down. That's another piece. But those are some of the things that we're keeping a close eye on, which all falls under the umbrella of a smart city, which is how do I connect all of those within one dome, and parking is one big example of it. I recognize that in theme parks and in others, it's a significant form of revenue, and there may be a shift for people Ubering to the theme park versus parking because of either a perception or a reality that I don't want to go through this experience. So the more that experience is improved, I think we will see more people feeling more comfortable to leverage parking. I just want to share my thoughts on that. Don't know about you, Al.
Yeah, I'll share one comment. Just based on my experience, when you think about parking at large venues, a lot of the challenge boils down to bottlenecks and orchestration. Okay, we've all seen those moments where the cars are all the way from Universal to I-4, during big surges. And then orchestration is, how do you get the right cars at the right part of the parking area in the most efficient manner, in and out? So I've seen some really interesting implementations at various venues around the country and the world where you can use automation, optical recognition, where you might have someone establish an account with the business, not just for parking, where parking is an amenity that is prepaid. Maybe they scan in their license plate in advance. So when they show up, they just drive through. And as long as you get a positive recognition on that license plate, whatever they've agreed to pay for parking gets charged. So you don't have that big bottleneck, right? Now, if you can't do this for everyone, maybe you can do it for a subset of your guests that are more inclined to engage with you digitally. And what you find is if you take large cohorts of your bottleneck out of the equation and get them through more seamlessly, it makes it easier for everyone. And then on orchestration, typically you have team members literally, guiding guests and directing them to parking spaces. Get those team members in communication with each other. It should be like a mesh, and think of it like a Slack channel or a clubhouse room in real time, and it's just that team managing that parking venue. So they're in tight communication. You've got digital technology, you've got human intelligence in real time, so that they can solve problems, optimize, give the guests a good experience. And when it's time to leave, you just reverse it. How do you make it easy to get out in an orderly way? And maybe some of the guests have an express way to do that, right? So if you think about it in terms of bottlenecks, automation, and the tools of orchestration, you can be very creative. And there are many examples of folks that have done some really neat things with parking that I've seen.
And I love how we talk, and we're going to have to end here, and we are literally ending our conversation today about parking, but isn't it so fitting? Like, if you're an attraction, you start your conversation at parking, and you end the attraction at parking. And I think even what you just said, Al, is having a better understanding of the movement of people, when they leave, how do they leave. That is, if your lasting impression, and I'm going to go back really low tech, is a dirty, disorganized, non-functional parking lot, I'm going to remember that. And my wife just told it to me yesterday. From a personal level, I'm going to be coming down to Orlando in 2 weeks from now. I'm going to be in Orlando. I'm sitting here trying to book my reservations to go take my family of 7 to SeaWorld, Universal, and Disney, right? And it's brutal. It is. It's a brutal experience. But my wife just said, Randy, I'm not going to have a lot of joy at the end of the day if I'm dragging my sleepy, candy comatose kids to the vehicle at the end of the day and then have to navigate out the traffic. And she's already thinking of that. And what we need to do is we need to understand what's in the minds of our guests. They need to understand what's going through my wife's mind at the end of the day and use all these learnings to expedite that exit, to make sure there's a smile on her face when she leaves, and to remind her of all the great fun she had during the day, and that's ultimately our goal. Our goal is to talk to great people like both of you, to get good ideas on how we can do better with what we have, regardless of our size. We could be small, medium, or large, but we've all learned amazing things. And you guys are awesome. Is it okay if it's probably not going to happen today, but if I send an email out, can I include your company information in your email? Because I think a lot of people, they might need to just come to you to say, how do I get started? And maybe, JIFFY.ai and North Highland can help them along the way or point them in the right direction. I think you guys are amazing, and I think our attendees would love that. Is that okay if we do that?
That would be fine. And, we're here to help and drive understanding first. My role is biz dev, which is a lot of this, understanding, empathy. We all have a lot of experience dealing with real people and real guest experience. And that translates strongly into the things we're doing in the tech space. And, this is a great conversation, and we could do a sequel, because I can just sense that there's a momentum here that is going to compound as the industry news gets better, and as we drive to getting back to businesses, and even growth, dare I say it. So thanks for the opportunity today, and it would be a pleasure to engage with any of the guests on the call today.
I'll echo that as well. Thank you, Al. I'm glad to co-panel with you. And thank you, Randy. Of course, our information is available, and we recognize that everybody's going through their version of transformation, and there needs to be a people layer on top of that. And if we're not sensitive and empathetic, as Al said, to the people side, we will fail. And happy to be here and happy to have connected with you all.
Well, That's awesome. I'm just gonna throw my slides up for a moment because I'll send. I got some cool optimistic data here, and exactly what you said, Al, is that there is a lot of optimism. People should be excited right now. I'm not going to go through the survey, but I was really encouraged by this data, and I'll send it out to everybody. But I do want to let folks know if they want more resources, they could scan that QR code as we wind down here, and join our email list, and make sure that you have our email list here, because I'll be sending information of Ala and Al's information to you all. So sign up there. Join us next week. There's a QR code at the bottom right. This is not just for women in your organization. We actually have a CEO of Sally Darkrides, John Wood, joining us. This is for men and women to learn how they can embrace and empower all of your staff, and to focus on what you can do to get these talented women in your organizations, and find those women that are moving up through the ranks. So please join us. Great panel next week. And then the following week, I will not be there because I will be, maybe I'll be joining you guys remotely from, I don't know, Wednesday. I don't know if I'll be at Universal that day, or what. Maybe I'll be going on wire slides, but maybe I'll pop in for a moment. But please join us by clicking on that QR code. That's it for us. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for sticking with us. There's a lot more questions that we've been getting. If you want to reach out to us, just hit us in the chat. We'll try to answer your question in some other way if we didn't get to it today. So thank you guys very, very much. Looking forward to seeing you all real soon, and be safe out there. And hopefully we'll see you in the attractions and theme parks real soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Good.
Bye.
Thank you.